The Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District's Board of Directors, the meeting scheduled for February 28th, 2013. If you'd all please rise and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance after Mr. Wood. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, the Metro Cable announcement is as follows. The open session meeting is videotaped for cablecast on Metro Cable 14, replay on Saturday, March 2nd, 2013 at 1 p.m. and Monday, March 4th, 2013 at 6 p.m. on channel 14. Webcast at www.sacmetrocabletv. And the open session meetings are also available for viewing on the district website at www.metrofire.ca.gov. Madam Clerk, are there any speaker cards, members of the public?
No, there are not.
All right, thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Director Gould and a second by Director Jones. Board Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Directors Monk.
Aye.
Wood.
Aye.
Scheidegger.
Aye.
Barzali.
Aye.
Gould.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Clark and Pearson absent. Motion passes.
Great. Next item on the agenda is action items, and we have a resolution on land use and development consultant services agreement. Chief, you're going to handle this?
Yes, I am, President Kelly, Board of Directors. As you well know, we have had the experience of dealing with the Folsom annexation south of 50. And we have developers that have approached us in regards to providing long-range fire protection across county lines as well as within Sacramento. And we have ongoing development that's moving up into the Sutter Point area in Sutter County. We also have issues that we have explored in Latrobe and El Dorado County. And clearly, the import of this has to do with ERAF shifts and the protection of ERAF for the district. That is a large part of our ongoing economic budget. So it was important to us that we bring on somebody with the expertise. John O'Farrell is a sole contract. He was the head of LAFCO for quite some time. He also is involved in the formation of this district. And so he has the expertise of what the boundaries are, LAFCO laws, spheres of influence, those things that are of import, and the experience to work with the developers and with the governmental agencies that are at play to move these types of issues forward in regards for recommendations to us and to the Board of Directors for your consideration on what direction that you folks might want to go. So the fiscal impact of the district is a contract not to exceed $35,000 for a one-year contract term. I believe he's working on an hourly basis. We don't intend on using him to a large extent probably over the next couple, 2 to 3 months, but then we anticipate that we will be moving forward on some explorations that we want to do in regards to spheres of influence and potential annexations and service levels across county lines. And at that point, he's going to be imperative to have on board to guide us and give us professional recommendations that are consistent and pointed to the Board of Directors so that we can make some solid recommendations to you as the policymaking board. So it's pretty important to us to get him on board early in these processes. We think that there's going to start to be some movement on some issues at mid-year to perhaps the fourth quarter of the calendar year on these issues.
All right.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Director Gould and a second by Director Jones. Are there any questions on the motion? Director Monk.
Question for the chief. Page 3 of 10 in the document, the contract, Chief? Under the second paragraph, it's probably a question for legal counsel. It says Number one, provide that the insurance carrier shall not cancel, terminate, or otherwise modify the terms and conditions of said policies except upon 30-day written notice to the chairperson of the district board of directors.
Boilerplate.
Mr. Clark?
You know, I don't want to throw the chairman under the bus, but
I mean, that's what the language of the agreement says, just so that if there is such a termination, that there is legal notice given to a person authorized by the district to accept that. You could put you could put the chief's name in place of the chairperson.
that's what my question was.
It's just a matter of proof of legal notice of termination, that it go to someone who has the ability to accept that notice and have that notice binding upon the district.
In section 24 of the same document, the notices, all notices, requests, demands, or other communications under this agreement shall be in writing. Notices shall be given for all of the following purposes, and all of those are directed to Larry Davis, Chief Development Officer. So I think that everybody's going to get noticed somehow or another, but I appreciate your attention to detail, Director Monk. Any other questions on the motion?
Mr. Chair, I'm supportive of this because I think we move forward in a regionalization, and this is certainly going to, I think 10 years from now, someone's going to look back at this evening as we start down this road by bringing someone in with the expertise and background to make sure that it's being done appropriately and serves the communities well. So I'm excited to see this move forward, and hope I get support on the motion.
Yes.
I'd like to also say I have a high degree of confidence in John O'Farrell. He was executive officer for Sacramento County LAFCO for approximately 18 years, and in that position he oversaw multiple fire district consolidations, including the one that led to Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District. So in terms of expertise, I don't think we could go anywhere higher than this gentleman. So I appreciate everyone's confidence for this.
Excellent. We do have the motion, and are there further questions, directors? Excellent. Board Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Directors Monk,
Aye.
Wood,
Aye.
Scheidegger,
Aye.
Barzali,
Aye.
Gould,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Director Pearson absent, motion passes.
Excellent. Next item on the agenda is a presentation item, and it is the long-range facilities and financial planning. Chief Holbrook and Mr. Campo will make the presentation.
Good evening, directors. Good evening.
Aloha.
There we go. Just a brief overview before we get started. I know this is listed on your agenda this evening as a presentation, but it's more of a discussion, I would think. We're talking about looking forward planning as it would appear, we hope, that the recession has bottomed out, and we're beginning to look forward to an economic recovery. I think it's time for the district, or at least the administration feels it's time to step back and evaluate where the district is after these many years of continuing to deal with declining property tax revenues and all the cuts that the district has been forced to take to keep spending in line with revenues. And I think as the economy begins to recover, we're already seeing increased development activity. We're being contacted quite often these days by developers or county planning wanting to know what types of facilities are needed to accommodate the various new growth areas. So that's kind of the backdrop to what we'll be discussing and presenting to the board this evening. The discussion will come in kind of two parts. One is, again, kind of taking a step back and looking at the impacts that the recession has had on the district in terms of our ability to deliver services. And by that, I'm really talking about our response times. And when we talk about response times, we're really talking about our ability to respond to those calls that deal with protecting life and property. So when we talk about response times and service levels, we're kind of using those terms interchangeably. And then we'll also look at kind of long-range planning. Stepping back, trying to take a look forward at where the district is going to be and what the district is going to look like 10 years, 15 years from now. There's a substantial amount of development throughout the county and within the city of Rancho Cordova, projects that are already on the drawing board that have just kind of been on hold while we get through this current economic downturn. So we'll be talking about planning for the future. And again, we're not asking the board to take action this evening, but rather provide direction to the fire chief in terms of where do we go from here. Chief Fulbrook, would you like to add anything?
No, I think that's perfectly done.
Okay, so let's. I'm going to start off by talking about the facilities planning part of this. As I mentioned, we've been contacted by developers to comment on various projects. And what they're looking for is what the facilities needs are for their various projects, which is difficult to do when you're looking at it on a project-by-project basis. So what we need to do, I think, is step back and take a look at this on a regional basis. So we look at all the projects so we can figure out where the most effective location for new fire stations would be given the larger regional needs. Given the history of the district, the current stations are not always located in the most ideal manner to be most effective in providing response times. So as we go forward, we need to kind of look at where things are going to be down the road. We want to make sure that new development pays for itself so that there's not impacts on current residents. So they don't see a deterioration of their services because we're responding to new growth areas. We want to make sure there's a fair allocation, fair share allocation of costs to the development community. That's something that's very, very important to them. Every developer we've talked to thus far, Larry Davis and I have been meeting with developers now for the last month or two, and they're all very concerned that everyone's paying their fair share going forward. So that's very, very important to them. And what the starting point for this is a updated facilities master plan. So as we project development taking place down the road, we need to identify those facilities and other apparatus and equipment that's needed to serve those areas. So, and then once we identify what those are, we need to project what the cost of those facilities and apparatus and equipment are going to be. And then furthermore, we need to identify what it's going to cost to staff those stations and apparatus and make sure that there's a mechanism in place to provide funding to cover the cost of construction and the cost of operation. That's where we tie the facilities plan into the capital facilities fee, which is the fee that developers pay when they pull a building permit to help fund these facilities down the road. Part of the analysis will be projecting ongoing revenue from property taxes, fees, and other sources. And then trying to identify if there's any funding shortfalls in terms of operations, and then developing funding mechanisms to cover those, to cover the shortfalls. I'm going too quickly, just stop me, and I'll be glad to answer questions. I think the next slide, it's difficult to see up here, but really I just wanted to include this to kind of show all the various growth areas. And I believe you have your packet on your dais that maybe is a little easier to follow. But these colored areas are all new growth areas. They're master planned areas that are on the drawing board as we speak. This is a listing of those potential dwelling units in those new growth areas. You can see there's potentially over 100,000 new dwelling units that are currently being planned. Now, these are over the next 20 years, I'm sure, because there's just no way the market could absorb this number of units. If you figure two and a half folks per household, we're looking at 250,000 additional population to serve. And so this is what we're trying to plan for and look ahead. And I might add, this does not include any of the areas we were talking about with the previous item in terms of the North Natomas area and those kind of areas. This is pretty much the Jackson Highway Corridor area and City of Rancho Cordova.
And then don't forget the, at least on paper, we have Cordova Hills.
Yes.
And that's
that
another
up here
challenge.
is the East Planning area. That
Oh, the
would
whole,
include-
this,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
oh, thank you.
But we do have on the dais the Placer Vineyard,
Right, right.
and it's not included in your numbers as you're
Right,
mentioning.
Correct. And there could be another 30 to 40,000 units up in that area, including that whole North Natomas area. So again, just kind of to recap the facility side of this, we're looking at this on a regional basis as opposed to a project basis, so that we can try and determine where the optimal location of stations are and not overburden projects with stations that don't need to be built. We also need to think about interim facilities because these projects are not going to be built out all at once within a year or two. It's going to take time. And so most likely we're going to have to deal with placing interim facilities until areas get built out and really requires a more permanent solution. It's very important that we come up with a fair share allocation of the costs, because I'm sure we're going to hear from the development community once we identify the cost of the new facilities and apparatus. So it has to be something that we can readily defend. And basically what we're doing is planning ahead. I have a quote from Winston Churchill up here. It says, "He who fails to plan is planning to fail." So it's just really looking ahead and trying to anticipate what's coming and make sure that we have a plan to deal with that. At this point, I'll turn it over to Chief Holbrook to kind of take on the portion of the presentation or discussion that deals with kind of where we are today at the end of this downward trend we're in, and we're looking forward to maybe heading up from here. So, go ahead.
Thank you, Ken.
Knock on wood.
Yeah. If you will, there are two sides to the single coin. And what Ken is talking about is looking forward. That look forward clearly, as he stated, is about 20 years out. That's fantastic. And the fact that those developers pay for that growth as we go is exactly where this district wants to be. However, I've got the other side of the coin, and the other side of the coin is looking backwards and not ignoring the fact we are 16 predecessor agencies, the fact that the recession that we've just gone through has literally gutted our ability to fix some of the response time issues that we talked about. We had to look at what are the opportunities to fix what's left behind us rather than just pretend it didn't exist and keep moving. We went through mid-year budget at the last board meeting. And so you're fully well aware that we are down $24 million in this fiscal year relative to property tax revenue. Property tax revenue, remember, pays for fire suppression. All of our other activities are cost recovery to pay for themselves. EMS is a great example of that. But property tax is fire suppression and fire suppression alone. Everything that we have done to reduce spending and to increase our revenues does not take away from the fact that we are still down over 60 personnel and still have some stations that are closed outright, and in other stations there are pieces of apparatus that have been closed. So I may lose an engine out of a multi-company house, and other stations, for example the Anatolia station, are completely closed down to this day. Everything that we're looking at, and obviously this district and this administration has always taken a conservative approach, but everything that we're looking at is a property tax for fire suppression growth of about 1% to 2%. It doesn't, you don't have to think very hard to contemplate that very well could outpace cost increase. And if interest rates rise and all of that, that 1% to 2% could not be actual growth. That could be a detriment, a continued detriment to the budget. Initially, if let's be generous and said that we got a couple of percent a year, we have a SAFER grant that expires in May of this year for 24 firefighters. Any growth on property tax would naturally go to fund that from May on. We have a SAFER grant that actually takes effect. We can start to spend the money in March of this year, the new one that Larry Shop was awarded, and that will actually go through 2015. So if we're able to gain some ground relative to property tax, again, that property tax would go straight into paying once that SAFER grant expired. Given sequestration that's happening on the federal level, the likelihood or of that SAFER grant is absolutely up in the air. So there's federal dollars, and so we don't know if it'll come. Now, Ken had mentioned response time. This district has a stated goal of a 4-minute response time. That doesn't include the minute for dispatch, and it doesn't include the minute for turnout time. What's unique about you'll be able to draw parallels very quickly with the 4-minute response time is it actually correlates to a few things that we do for a living. And so in that 6 minutes total time that we desire to get to a scene, if for a patient that isn't breathing, the 6-minute window is a very critical window. It's the difference between brain death and perhaps intervening. So the faster that we can get there isn't just some nationally stated goal. It's real. It is life and death and the difference therein. In addition to that, if you look around even this facility, we have gone from what used to be what we'll call legacy type of furniture, which was solid wood. Everything that is in front of you is actually petroleum. And so what we're getting is a point in fires today where we will reach flashover in a matter of about 6 to 7 minutes. Flashover is where every surface within the room reaches its ignition temperature. It is completely unsustainable to life and health. So when we're discussing response times here, it is truly on every aspect of what we do for a living, life and death. That is the difference, not some lofty little goal that somebody rolled out. So everything that this district and this administration has done to find deficiencies, and obviously some of them, not all of them, are up there, relative to wage and benefit concessions, that keeps companies open, which keeps our response times as low as we possibly can. And the federal funding that we've gotten for the SAFER and the 24 firefighters, that's extra apparatus on the street to keep our response times as low as we possibly can. But remember the hole that we're in. Prior to mid-year, we were down $26 million on an annualized basis. We got a little bump at mid-year. We're down 24. Gee, that sounds better. But we are significantly decreased relative to response times than we have been in the past. And what does that mean? That is dramatic. 59% of the time, we can make it within the response time parameters. Pre-recession, while 64 doesn't sound like a lot more, it is if it's your family member, if it's my constituent, your constituent. And so everything that we do, everything that we have done has been to try to arrest this decay. I'm afraid that even if we get 1 or 2% growth, that cost and interest rates will rise. We've written a lot of low interest paper in the last bunch of years, and I'm afraid that costs are going to exceed that, and I'm afraid we won't be able to arrest this slide.
Chief, is this all calls, all types?
No, significant events. It has to be declared a what's called a major incident, and so that would be a significant EMS or significant fire. So we call out all of the, and I certainly don't want to call them garbage, but the public assistance and those types of things are not factored into this.
And those non-significant events impact the travel times and arrival times of significant events?
That is a great question. There are a few things that absolutely affect that. And as Director Gould pointed out, he couldn't be more correct. And I'll actually go to the bottom point first. Every minute of every day, just figure there's 4 calls going on within the district. Obviously, during the daytime, significantly more, and we're probably into the 20s and 30s at any one time. Evening, it slows down a little bit. But because there are simultaneous calls going on in the district, the unit that is responding in this zone is out. So the unit coming from the next zone is going to exceed the 4-minute travel time to relay aid to the citizen. Therein lies part of the problem. Compounding that problem, we're 16 predecessor agencies. I was part of it. We did not design at American River Fire or Carmichael or Arden Arcade, we did not design a regional approach relative to station placement. You looked at a district approach. And thus, 13 of our stations today are flat out in the wrong spot because of that smaller district mentality. And in addition to that, some of the zones are so large that it doesn't matter where the station is because it still can't cover it in time. And so that's just some of our realities. In addition to that, and I'll show you on the next slide, which is, again, compounding, our call volume, as I preach here every 2 weeks, our call volume is growing at an exponential rate, and I don't believe that it's unsustainable. However, I think that we will have to look at alternative methods eventually if it continues to grow at the rate that it is. For example, while it says estimated of 80,146, it was over 80,200 calls that were handled by this district last year. That is an unprecedented number that has never been handled by any jurisdiction in this county ever. This is not trending down in 2013. As a matter of fact, our fires are trending up, as are every other call type in this first quarter. So we've got this perfect storm. As Ken said, we may be getting towards the bottom of this recession. However, the growth rate that's projected may not keep up with actual hard cost, fuel, for example, let alone anything else. And so while things that move forward relative to growth absolutely are being well planned and on a timeline for execution, the things that are behind us are still our dirty laundry, are still in our closet that we need to clean up. It matters. It is life and death. And so,
Chief, if you could keep that one up.
Yes.
What's our year-over-year increase by percentage in call volume? I see you've got about 30,000 calls over a dozen years. You have a sense of year-over-year, are we increasing by 5%, 10%? Only because if you then assume that that rate is going to continue into the next 10 years, you can project out what our call volume will be in 2022.
Which we would be playing a little too loose with the statistical numbers, only because As I said, I see us changing parameters that would then make that, as soon as I looked at 2022, the change that I believe we need to institute in parameters would negate that number. It wouldn't be a real number anymore. I cannot, and I'm not a doom and gloom guy, but I'm here to tell you, you have all of the dominoes lined up. You got a stiff wind blowing, and Director Gould is spot on. Once it tips, there's just nothing. We have no moves left. I'm truly strapped out. Chief,
If I can just add in, because we didn't have the 2011 to 2012 differential, but this would give you an example of what happened. I believe we were over 3,000 calls more this year than we were the previous year. 3,000 calls is like a fire station and a half worth of calls. Huh?
It's 8 a day.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Thousands.
You're
right.
You're talking about probably about 2 fire stations on a normal 1,500 runs a year. You got to remember, they're not just out for a few minutes. The impact on that, just watching that year-over-year bump, is, I won't say terrifying, but deeply concerning, because we're not going to be able to have sustainability in that. And at 1% to 2% growth in property tax, we're going to get left behind in the dust. And so we kind of wanted to give you the overall deal, but just in the last year, and I'm sure you'll get to calls outside of the district and stuff like that, but it's significant.
I think terrifying is a good word, Chief. It creates change. Terrifying should be the word, because it is terrifying if you look at this, given everything you've just shown us in the half the slides you're preparing.
Right.
The citizens need to hear this is terrifying if we don't change it.
And I couldn't agree more. I think that, and I will get to the calls outside of the district. It's sometimes when you look at data, you won't like what you see. And I have to credit Ken and the fire chief, and I'm not being nice, I'm being honest. I have to credit them for an appreciation of what data brings you. It's not always rosy. You need to know this. We have to do something about this because he's dead on. Now, I do want to bring up one other thing relative to calls outside the district. We run 200% more calls to our neighbors than we get in return. Part of that, you have to just appreciate, is the nature of being the biggest. I have more borders than anybody else, and thus there are more incidents, and I send more stuff. That's just the way that it is. However, we are working with our neighbors, and when I said parameters may change, some of that will have to change if I can't take care of my own backyard. So those are the realities that we're faced, and there's not a fire chief, not a fire staff in this county that wants that, but it is reality all around the county. So I'll try to speed this up. If we were to pay attention to this side of the coin, and to do that, we're going to have to acknowledge that decline, to stop that response time decline, I need to open some companies. That is an inevitability. We would be talking about 6 engine companies that closed. We would be talking about over 60 personnel, actually. And to do that, just based upon the size of our fleet today, some of those would require new apparatus, just because obviously if we closed a company, we put the newer apparatus in there and decommissioned some old thing that was still running. With that, it sounds easy to do. However, that is a monumental lift in and of itself. That is, budgetary-wise today, unaccomplishable. But the district is, and I don't think you can deny, this administration has never said, okay, we give up. And so what we're looking at is alternatives to bring in new revenue to the agency. If we don't, and I want to be clear, if we don't, the system will fracture. We will be in an unsustainable model. So we've looked at a couple of things. As you are well aware, we convened a Citizens Advisory Committee. That Citizens Advisory Committee is a sounding board for the fire chief and staff to explore what the tempo is of the community, and they come from all walks of the community. We have homeowners association presidents all the way to business leaders, politicians, to literally city employees. So all walks of life are represented purposely on that Citizens Advisory Committee. They have been phenomenally dedicated to providing us realistic, tangible feedback, which has helped us a lot. A polling process was conducted recently, and it absolutely warrants, and the Citizens Advisory Committee was advised of this, of the results of it. It absolutely warrants the further exploration. Had a poll come in and been a return that indicated there was no need to explore because it wasn't going to work, we'd have come forward and said, it's not going to work. We're going to shelve it for a while. But it came in at a level that warranted further exploration. I need you to appreciate, and I'm sure that the chief will weigh in on this as well. It's not a guarantee that anything is going to come out of it longer term. It is an indicator from the community, supported by the Citizens Advisory Committee, that you have enough to work with here. Go look and see and talk and do outreach and refine your points to the point where you may be able to come up with something that's workable. So I'm not promising anything. I'm giving you the unvarnished truth that given the circumstance on this side of the coin, we need to do something, and this appears to be the most viable alternative for the district. I think, Ken?
Thank you. So again, what we're looking for tonight is direction from the board to the fire chief to continue the process of developing the facilities master plan, and which would identify those facilities, and then we could go about the task of costing those facilities and then costing the operational side. We'd also like to get direction from the board to continue exploring the development of a new revenue source and the utilization of professional consultants to assist in that process. Chief, is there anything?
Yeah, I'll kind of wrap this up. I think it's an overall balanced approach of what we've been working on for over the last 2 years, 2.5, 3 years. Definitely the facilities master plan became front and center because we do have this growth that's coming out. We are hopefully bottoming out in the recession, but we need to be in a position that we can take advantage of the growth that's going to build and grow smartly, and be able to offer that to the developers when they're looking at the growth, and to the communities out there that are already there. If you take Anatolia, we closed a fire station in that area. I use that as an example. You've got developments that are going to be exploding out around that region. How do we serve those people who have already suffered a loss, while at the same time addressing that new development that happens around them? And at the same time, continuing to explore developments of new revenue sources. We did do some outreach. We did some stuff to get out there and get the feedback from a segment of homeowners in the community. And it was at least significant enough that the committee said, listen, we should continue to work on this issue and reach out to some stakeholders, being now different types, not single-family owners, but larger business owners and landowners and stuff like that, and get a read on where they're at, and talk to them about what we need to do to see if there's a possibility for developing new revenue sources. Some of that involves consultants, because if you're looking at benefits or you're looking at those types of issues, you have legal issues, Prop 218 issues that we've been using consultants on, as the board knows, as well as the issues of engineer studies and stuff like that, so they can work and give you advice. It's a interesting thing. You have the policy end of it, you have the legal end of it, and you have the engineering issue of it. And if you get any of it wrong, then you're not going to be able to come and give the policy body here an informed decision or a recommendation. It'll be flawed. So we have to depend on them. As you know, we have been using consultants over the last 2 or 3 years on this to analyze it. A lot of the data that we brought in, even if we didn't do anything on the revenue side, we came to the answer of no. I can tell you that we've had to go out and survey 200,000 parcels in our district. I can tell you that the county of Sacramento didn't even know what was on 12,000 parcels of that in our district. We had to use consultants to come in and verify tax rolls to make sure that they're being properly charged, so they're not being overcharged or undercharged. So a lot of the data that we've collected and gone out and used the experts to gather, we end up reconfirming that, refining that list so that we have a database so that when we go to the public and we tell them this is what the situation is, it's based on real data. It's not based on pulling it out of my ear or somebody else's ear on what's going on there. So that's what we're really looking for, is a reaffirmation to continue on with that process, direction to continue exploring that. And from the facilities master plan, clearly getting the consultants in here to put that together. That's, that's beyond our technical capability. It's much like we talked about the LAFCO issues and stuff like that. We need people on board to provide those services and move forward. And so when you look at the facilities master plan, we already have like Citygate on board that's already working for us to do the scientific studies. A lot of that stuff is being paid for by the developers for us, so it's passed through. That's part of that shared cost. They're willing to pay us ahead of time to tell them what services they need, and they pay for it. Make no bones about it, we hire the consultant. They're working for us, they simply pay for it. So this is not a corrupted process by any stretch of the imagination. And the win is actually, it's scientifically based so that everybody gets a real result on where they want to go and what they want to do. So that's really, it's for discussion tonight to get the feel from the board of directors about continuing to move forward. I do feel very, very strongly, and I will say this, for the people that are out there watching on the TV. Our labor unions, people want to say about labor unions stepping up to the plate, and you could cut that. Well, they did, mid-contract, start paying 12% of their pension, which was a 12% pay cut. Prior to that, they gave up raises and benefits. And then just recently, we've been in the process, which I'll be updating, and negotiating pre-funding retiree medical, of which both the retirees and the actives would be participating. They have changed pension formulas before. The pension formulas were changed by the state government. They changed working conditions and stuff for new employees coming on. Before that was groovy to do, or the word of the day. They have stepped up to the plate. And I will tell you that if you're reading in print about salaries and stuff, I feel obligated to say this. Don't believe what you read, because I read some today that were absolutely not accurate by any stretch of the imagination and representing what's happening in the district today. Now, I don't think that was intentional. I think it's because people just go grab raw data, the best they can get, and throw it out there and see what sticks. But at the end of the day, I can say I'll be complaining later that you owe me a lot more money. If that's really what I was making, I'm seriously being underfunded, and you're not living up to the obligation by several hundred grand. So at the end of the day, I want to make it clear to the public out there that this board of directors, this administration, and labor have worked very, very tirelessly first to adjust benefits, to adjust pay, to do the things that are right. And I will sit here and say this to our district residents, because I believe in it. Our employees are the ones in 522 that have done it. I have not seen anybody around us or in the state of California step up and do the massive amounts of things that we've been able to do in regards to pensions, in regards to the reform of health care, and you need to know that. And yes, have we had to cut services? Yes, we have. But people need to understand that when you lose 26 or 24 million on an annualized budget out of your deal, private sector companies with a budget our size would probably raise the white flag, file for Chapter 11, reorganize the whole 9 yards. We don't have the ability to just say tomorrow we're going to stop delivering fire and emergency medical services. We don't have the ability to turn the switch off, turn the lights off, and go home. Because if we're not there and we don't have people in the fire stations responding to your emergency medical calls and your fires, people are going to die. Property is going to burn. Bad things are going to happen to good people. And so we have tried to responsibly cover this from three legs of the stool: labor participating first, trying to reduce the way we do things and streamline things. And now we're down to where we're cutting into the bone and into the marrow, and we have to figure out a way that we can get just the simplest level of 5 or 6 companies back so that we can provide service that gets us to your house 64% of the time in the time standard. Not 90, which is the national standard, just 64% instead of 59, instead of when it goes to 54 or 53 or 52. And that call volume, if you look at the call volume going up and you look at the property taxes going down, I mean, it's a recipe, and you look at the call response times, our ability to get there going down. The average person's got to look at that and go, that is a huge, huge issue that we have to deal with. So with that, that's my normally not passionate, but my, in this case, passionate outreach, really for the viewers at home, that this is a serious issue. And this board of directors has been working and tasking this administration all the way down to the brand new person on the tailplate or the secretary or whoever is working to sit there. We have worked collectively to try to come up with solutions. We're out of runway, and so we've got to explore alternatives. And whether the community ends up being supportive of that, we don't know. It's a situation that we continue to work on. But at the end of the day, we deserve to give the public our best, and that's what we're trying to do. I'd be happy to answer any questions or staff.
All right, group, as this is a presentation item, no motion necessarily or action is in order. But I would like to know if there's a general consensus that we encourage the chief and give him continued support in the development of a facilities master plan, to continue exploring the development of a new revenue source and the utilization of professional consultants. If that pleases everybody, I imagine we can just all smile and say that, yes, that seems to be a direction that the board wishes to see things continue. If not, then let's have that discussion. And aside from that, even if we do believe that that is the direction that we wish the administration to continue, let's have discussion on that as well.
Well, Mr. Chair, I would support all the recommendations that have been presented to us by senior staff. You've outlined the history, the development, the directions, whether it's the monetary revenue side, whether it's the service delivery side, and having been in the fire service since 1981, these numbers, the stats, they're not, the run numbers have never gone down. Never. And we've had reduction in companies because of the severe revenue depletions that we've gotten from the lowering property tax. It is time. We need to look at another way. And the initial blush is that we have support. People understand that the closures have an impact on the quality of life in our community, in our greater region. And so I applaud the chief and his staff for working their tails off on this and to bring us something and bring us some positive ideas that we can try. We need to try.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I think we really don't have an option. The bottom line is we took an oath to protect the men and women and the citizenry. I don't see where we have much options here, folks. This is coming at us faster than anything that's ever come, and people elected us to make policies and decisions to ensure the safety of this region. I don't see where this is really a difficult decision. We've had a lot more difficult decisions. I think this is a no-brainer. The chief and his staff need to continue to move forward at lightning speed because these calls continue to come in. Lives are put at risk, properties put at risk, and we cannot stop. So for me, it's really simple. We got to move forward.
Director Monk, you.
Yeah, and regardless of which position you take, I think the chief is absolutely right. We need to move forward and find the information or do the research. So if and when we do have to make a decision, it's all right there for us to look at and say, you know, like Director Gould said, there is no other choice. We've got the information in front of us. If we wait until we have to make the decision and we don't have that information, that's when we're going to be in a bad position. So I think we should be doing the research and moving forward on that.
Director Wood, did you have your hand raised?
I couldn't agree more with the chief and what he said, and I think lightning speed's a good way to put it, Director Gould. I do have one question, though, for Mr. Gorman. On the going forward portion of this, what are we doing to make sure that we don't have another situation like what happened with Anatolia? For example, just looking at our map, we got 14,000 dwelling units planned in Jackson. All 14,000 don't come online at once. So you get a couple hundred there, you get a couple hundred a few miles down, a couple hundred somewhere else. What are we going to do with these interim facilities to make sure that as new stations are planned, that the funding is there to keep them going as property tax comes on?
Director Wood, that's an excellent question. That's one the development community has raised themselves, and that's a real challenge. I have to admit, I can't stand here today and tell you I have the answer to that. But that's something that Citygate, as the chief mentioned, Citygate Associates is a firm that's been helping the district for a number of years, I'd say. With their standards of coverage studies, their runtime analysis. They will be helping us take a look at that. But the reason it's difficult to answer that question is because we don't know where the development is going to take place. We don't know which project is going to go first. It would be nice if everything was on a sequential basis and linear, but life just doesn't work that way. But what we can do is develop a model that we can then plug in the development as it occurs and identify the best way to provide services to that area at that time. Like I said, we don't have a crystal ball, so it's difficult to project where that development is going to take place. That's why we want to look at a model on a regional basis that anticipates build out, and then we can plug in the development as it takes place. And this exercise is, again, part of it is projecting development and or projecting the cost of facilities, but the real work's going to be developing a funding mechanism and identifying how facilities are going to get paid, because I can guarantee you that facilities are going to be needed before the projects are built out. So in my past experience with cities, we would enter into development agreements whereby one developer would construct the facilities that are needed, whether it was for fire or water or sewer, and then as other projects come online and future development takes place, they reimburse the developer that actually built the facilities. So there's different mechanisms that we'll have to look at. And another large aspect of this is projecting the operational costs and projecting property tax revenues and other fee revenues that are coming in, and trying to identify if any shortfalls exist, and then developing a funding mechanism to deal with those shortfalls so that we're not impacting existing residents. I think the mantra is new development has to pay for itself. And so we do not want existing customers, existing residents to suffer because of new development that should be paying for itself.
And if I can add to that, and of course, Ken and I had worked together previously, and then he worked in the city of Vacaville, which is very successful in how they manage development. There's no free lunch. If we're in on the planning floor and you want to build your development, there's got to be a shared cost about how you're going to have that bridge money to be able to pay for the operations. Building the station and getting the equipment, quite frankly, is the easy part. There's got to be that bridge in there. We do hold leverage on that, on how they're going to do, whether they have an assessment on top of each structure that's built before it goes for sale. I can tell you that in a development that'll remain nameless, I remember there was a dollar figure of like $100 per dwelling, and the developer completely came unhinged, but they were attributing to get water to each one of those houses at $2,000 or $3,000 per house. I understand that water, it probably comes first to drink and as well as to help put fires out. But at the end of the day, my point is that part of that is negotiations, sitting down and not allowing development to go in just without that being accounted for. And I think what Ken's saying is we need to do our analysis of where those stations go to identify that the developers are getting a fair shake and that the current citizens are protected. But more importantly, if they have a fair shake on locations and how they share the construction and that, then it comes down to this. You've got to pay. You're the one that comes to the game to be able to have something tacked on there for us to be able to pay for the operations so that we're not impacting those people that are already living out there. And we've watched that mistake. I mean, I've watched Melrose fees. It's great. They've got them out there for the hydrant system, but they don't have them out there to pay in Anatolia. And that was one of the big conversations. They said, we already pay $100 or $150 Melrose fee for fire. Well, that was for hydrants. We don't have anything to do with that. Had nothing to do with for staffing the fire station. So those are the types of things as we put the cost together and we put the plan on where they need to go on regional development, then you have a basis for which to talk to the developers and go, this is what we're recommending or this is what we're negotiating that needs to be on top of that structure that you're going to sell per unit to be able to provide that.
Thank you.
All right, Director Scheidegger.
Well, I think any study of successful business will tell you that adequate effort is put into research and development and planning. And we're no different. And that's what we're talking about here. You know, when I first reviewed this package in preparation for the meeting, I was a little concerned because I saw emphasis on development. And I really appreciate the presentation that the chief and Mr. Campo gave because you stress that the real product of this is going to be to ensure, I think if I can quote you, that there's no degradation in service to our existing residents. That's where it starts. But you've got to look to the future to assure that. So I just like my 2 cents is I really appreciate this effort. I strongly support it. And in particular, I like the idea that you're having this future plan and looking to assure we can take care of our current residents and build for the future. And your Citizens Advisory Panel is a means to help us get there, an alternative means. So I really appreciate what we're doing here. Thank you.
And I appreciate the fact that you have examined the other side of the coin, and that's looking back at the degradation of services over this term of the recession. And I think it's important to bring those levels of service back to where they were pre-recession and ensure that, as Mr. Scheidegger said, the existing residents are receive benefit from the effort.
You know, there's a point I'd like to make. When I first reviewed the package, I was startled by the reduction in service time that fundamentally is 5%. 1% a year, basically. What struck me was I expected that figure to be much higher given the gravity of the loss that we've experienced in the last few years. And I think that goes directly back to the level of planning and professionalism that we have within the department. I think the chief and his team have done a great job. I would not have been surprised to see this be 10 or 12%. 5% is egregious, but it is still much better than it could have been. So I really appreciate what you've done here.
Well, I strongly support the chief's efforts also, and I think we need to continue moving and moving as fast as we can because this is really. It's a serious problem looming in that we have coming up. So we need to continue on our path and move as fast as we can, and you have my complete support.
Right then, it appears that
Full support.
your presentation was well received. Chief, I think that you heard the board speak, and gentlemen, thank you for your presentation this evening.
Thank you very much.
That concludes our action and presentation items. Would it be appropriate to go to closed session at this time?
Actually, closed session is going to be about 5 minutes long, so we can either
right.
do that or do it at the very end of the meeting and then just adjourn. It's your call, Mr. President.
Let's go ahead and, the President's report, all I have to mention is that, Madam Clerk, if you could arrange to contact the Executive Committee and set up an Executive Committee meeting in the near future, that would work well for us. And that's all I have is the President's report. Fire Chief?
Mr. President, Board of Directors, first I want to extend condolences, and I think we had a moment of silence at the last meeting, but for Cliff Haskell, was founder of the Firefighter Burn Institute, came out of the city of Sacramento. Unfortunately, we had a stakeholders meeting that we had rescheduled 3 times with some very, very busy people. I was unable to attend, but I know the local attended very heavily, and of course, President Brian Rice of 522 is heavily involved in the Burn Institute, and retired Fire Captain Jimmy Doucette from the city, and they were very, very deeply touched, and what a great loss it is. And then for us, we lost a firefighter, Rick Jones, who retired many, many, many years ago before Metro, and his wife, Dale Jones, works for us in our finance division, and it was a unfortunate loss. It was a long battle. Rick fought very, very hard. And at the end of the day, the department really stepped up, and I received a very nice thank you from her today, expressing to the department her gratitude, and it was very, very touching. And so our thoughts and prayers remain with Dale and her family. I put a WebEx recording, emailed it to the retirees. As you know, in labor negotiations, we deal with the union, and we don't normally deal with the retirees or anybody that's not negotiating. And so, of course, as we expected, they were the first ones to raise the flag, rally the horses, and yell charge, because nobody was talking to them. But 522 actually let them come into their union meetings and sit, even if they weren't union members, and listen, which was great. And then I went ahead and put out a WebEx recording about what we've been doing to each and every one of them, and sent that to them, recorded it and sent it by email. And I was pretty touched. I actually started to get emails from retirees that were very, very appreciative, and I think I actually got a thank you card today that I haven't opened, but I'm fairly certain it was from one that had sent me some very clear direction and advice about a week and a half ago, and I guess was appreciative that we followed through. And I apologize to those retirees that I wasn't able in the course of doing negotiations to talk about anything because they're confidential. So I think that they understood, and am happy for them. The 7th, we had our conference call for Metro Chiefs, and nothing new there. Big issue, fill the boot for burns. I want to thank everyone who donated and participated in the event. Metro Fire took the win for the 2013 Fire Chiefs Challenge. Well, I'm going to break it down a little bit better, but I raised, thanks to my staff, general counsel, finance, everybody that donated to me, to salt the boot, because there are no rules before you show up. We raised a total of $2,233. The next closest was $400 that was raised. So out of the $2,800 raised by the Chiefs Challenge, we raised $2,233. We brought the trophy back home where it rightfully belongs, and I was pretty happy. But more importantly, donations received during the event in Citrus Heights to date are totaled at $111,000 is what they raised for the Burn Institute and for the kids. And so we were very, very happy about that. I was unable to attend the Sacramento County Fire Chiefs Association meeting, but Chief Clough went in my absence. The next day, I met with Congressman Ami Bera to discuss pre-hospital care, paramedicine, Homeland Security, safer grants, and of course, the great sequestration. Congressman Bera made a very, very big point to let us know that he is about getting to the middle and getting solutions done. He said that there are no labels. They're trying to get people to compromise. And he spent a good half an hour with us. He was meeting with people in the district about the reductions that are going to happen to us through sequestration. Some are known, some are not. So we appreciated meeting with Congressman Ami Bera, and we look forward to follow-up discussions with him as well. I spoke at the Carmichael Chamber of Commerce luncheon. That went very, very well. Last night, the Single Role Paramedic Academy 13-1 graduated, our first Single Role Academy. As we mused today with staff, there's been a lot going on at the district, and I think the upper management staff, myself specifically, didn't realize what a big moment this was. I know that Director Jones, Director Scheidegger, and Director Pearson were there last night. It was history being made because this is the first of its kind in the state of California. And there were other fire chiefs in the audience that told my staff, I didn't get to talk to them, that this is pretty unbelievable that this is where it's going, and we are being watched. And I couldn't have been prouder of those 40 young men and women, and I say young because they made me feel very old looking at them, even though I'm only 26. Only convenient when I'm close to 50, of course, or whatever. But yeah, they graduated. They did a great job. We're very proud of them. At 06:30 tomorrow, they're hitting the streets. We have worked on an agreement with our partners, AMR. We value that continuing agreement with them. And in the spirit of that, what we don't value is the other private ambulance companies that continue to respond to care facilities telling them that they're the 911 provider. And I will tell the public this, in one case that's under investigation, the person died. And we had a firehouse that was only a couple minutes down the street. It doesn't matter who it is, it's under investigation. That I don't appreciate. AMR has always been a stand-up player in our community and a partner, and very, very professional in the way they develop services. So we are looking forward to working together hand in hand, and we expect that as we clamp down and the county LEMSEC clamps down on these private ambulance companies that are sharking 911 calls, in some cases handing out cell phones that say you dial star 91, and that'll get you the same service as the fire department gets you. Yes, that's actually factual. That as we clamp down on that, call volume will go up. AMR is prepared as a good partner to step in and do that. But that type of behavior is inexcusable, unconscionable, and not a service to the community out there at large. And this district is not going to stand by and watch that type of behavior happen. So with that, it was exciting graduation. Congratulations to them. Also a big day today. We met with the new dean of CSTI representing Cali MA, Mr. Fukutami, regarding the simulator. And I can finally announce that we're moving forward at an accelerated pace. The contracts were awarded. It's my understanding they had the bid opening yesterday. I believe that we were about 10 grand over what the estimate was on the overall cost when they were all opened up. We are extremely happy, and construction, I believe, will begin or demolition on around the 18th of March. Would that be correct? And how long is the construction estimated to completion? Outside is 5 months. I'll hold you to that. And we're open to have you, because it is the Board of Directors' new board chambers, that we're going to be in there. And we really appreciate Rancho Cordova having the patience with us that they have had. They have been just phenomenal in standing by us, and we appreciate that. This Saturday is the Firefighter Burn Institute crab feed, which I will be there because no one can get too much crab this time of year, at 6 p.m. So I encourage everybody to go and look forward to seeing them there. Also on the 9th, I'll be participating in the Arden Arcade Rotary Poker Tournament at the California Auto Museum as one of the dignitaries, which is embarrassing because I don't know how to play poker. And but my other half did pretty good last year. And I was really trying to get out of it quicker, but she continued to win. So that is a fundraiser that helps the law enforcement charities. So I think it's important that with the sheriffs and DSAs, the people that put that type of stuff on, and Scott Jones, the elected sheriff, that we in the fire community work very, very closely with the sheriffs and our law enforcement brothers and sisters. They support us in raising charitable funds, so it's important that we support them as well. Save the date, March 25th through the 29th, is the 43rd Annual Fire Mechanics Academy at McClellan Air Force Base that Metro Fire has hosted for I don't know how many years now. I think in excess of 10. It's been a long time. It attracts fire mechanics from as far away as the state of Washington, Hawaii, from New Mexico, Arizona, and throughout California. It is a phenomenal event if you get an opportunity to go out there. They are training mechanics on the latest techniques and things that they need to do on modern apparatus, old apparatus, and as those mechanics always remind me every year that I go to the dinner, if they don't do their job, we don't have one. So, and they're right, because if they don't keep our rigs on the road, we have nothing to go, and we really do not want to go back to horses. New hires, none to report. Reinstatements, none to report. Reassignments, none. Retirements, effective 2/15, Captain Bruce Thomas with 18 years of service. Captain Bruce Thomas didn't want to retire. Captain Thomas was injured in a line of duty with a severe injury to an eye, and the public needs to know this. He came back and tried to work. We have a lot of employees that try to do that. He wanted to stay. Those are one of those retirements where the person doesn't want to retire. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, sometimes you don't have that deal. And so as a fire chief, I want to say hats off to Captain Bruce Thomas. He did an exemplary career, and we wish him well. Promotions, none to report. Recruitment. District is accepting applications for the position of firefighter paramedic, single role EMT, single role paramedic with a final filing date of March 8th, 2013 by 5 p.m. And then career development opportunity. The district is accepting letters of interest from the safety ranks of firefighter, engineer, and captain for shift safety officers. I want to make this clear. These are not new positions. These will be people that fill a position from their existing position. There'll be another duty assigned. We do a lot of that because we don't have the ability to have full-time people in those positions. We have people that volunteer to step up and do multiple jobs, but even though they're volunteering, we pick the best. And there's always a line of people applying for those positions for career development opportunities and to give back to the district. So that is also available. And with that, that concludes my remarks for this evening. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chief. Seeing no questions, Chief Holbrook.
Thank you. Christopher Holbrook, Deputy Chief of Operations for Metro Fire. Since the last board meeting when we were together, there have been 2,496 EMS transports. That are transports combined between both Metro Fire and our partner AMR, and we transported at a rate of 72%, and that's a great transport rate. There have also been 18 structure fires since our last board meeting. You will notice, actually on the list of press releases, which I'll talk about in just a moment, that anymore it's not infrequent to get, our average is about 1 point something a day, sometimes 1.4, 1.5. It's not uncommon to get 2 or 3 a day. That used to be very uncommon. And now it's almost, not quite, but almost a matter of routine. So when I told you earlier that our fire volume is going up, it's noticeably going up. On the fire side, today we also concluded the Battalion Chiefs Academy, which was a 2-day event. Not only were all of the Metro BCs there, with the exceptions those were off for injury or other reason. We had Roseville Battalion Chiefs, Roseville Captains, City of Folsom. I truly take it as credit to staff how professional this organization is, that folks literally came from all the way around, all the way around us to attend that. You'll notice I passed you out a copy of my report tonight prior to the meeting. Director Pearson had asked, why don't we record or report on saves? And so that you are keenly aware, and I wish he was here, but we, as I reported to him, we report on saves in our press releases so that it is carried by the press. And that if you think about it, it's marketing, it's messaging. That gets out every single time that we do it. If there's not a save noted, it just happens to be situationally, sometimes it doesn't work that way. So I did not want to ignore his specific request, and I wanted to inform you that it is going on. Finally, I'm going to actually touch on something that the chief touched on, not to be duplicative, but to thank staff. The single role paramedic program is indicative of just one of hundreds of efforts that are going on in this district. And staff will walk in once in a while and say, I can't do it anymore. I can't do it anymore. Thank God we all cycle at different times, and so we can shore each other up. However, the staff, I truly want to say, hit the snooze one more time tomorrow morning, because this is a win. Mark it as a win. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Chief Holbrook. Committee and delegate reports. The Executive Committee, I asked the Board Clerk to please schedule a meeting with the Executive Committee members. Communications Center JPA, Chief Cockrum.
I have no report. The next meeting is the 5th.
All right. Fire and Rescue Training JPA. The JPA met yesterday, and JPA took some steps, approved some agreements on leases and USAR funding for Zimpendale. Other than that, it was routine in nature. We meet again in April, and the Finance Committee. Director Monk?
I'm going to pass that to Director Scheidegger, the new chairperson of the Finance Committee.
Director Scheidegger.
Okay, there will be another exciting chapter in the annals of the Finance Committee on March 14th, our next meeting.
Okay. Policy Committee, Director Orzali.
Policy Committee met this evening and reviewed the policies on FMLA and military leave. There is, at this point, no next meeting scheduled. It'll be TBA based on the needs of the department. Thank you.
All right, then. Directors, board members' comments and questions. Anybody? Yep. All right. We'll start with you, Director Monk.
Just wanted to mention that I saw the article in the paper about the fire on Watt Avenue, and I wanted to ask the chief, not knowing all the details, but there was a young man involved in the house fire, kitchen fire, and he got his family out, saved his family. Is the district doing anything to recognize that young man?
Yeah, we're waiting for the write-up to come up for the crews. Once that comes up, then we normally honor them here at the event. That hasn't hit operations. They're waiting for that to come up, so sometimes it takes a while for that to cycle.
We appreciate that. It's something we need to encourage, not necessarily tell kids to run into burning buildings, but the point is, this is a young man in elementary school or junior high school that took actions on his own and saved his entire family. That's something that should be recognized, in my opinion. So that's it.
Director Woods.
I don't have anything further to add.
No?
I appreciate all the effort, though, speaking with Chief Henke, Chief Holbrook, Mr. Campo, and I apologize, I got your name wrong earlier. I don't know where I got King Gorman from, but I do apologize.
The answers to a lot of things.
So thank you.
Director Scheidegger.
Chief Henke talked about the single-role paramedic graduation last night and how proud he was of the graduates. I just want to echo what Chief Holbrook said. I was really proud of this department. I was, too, proud of the graduates. It was a great-looking group of men and women, and I know they're going to add a lot to us. But I was really proud of the leadership of this department and how it was demonstrated that we took the lead in developing this program. Well done, once again. Thank you.
Director Jones.
Echoing, excuse me, echoing the comments about the single role paramedic program, fantastic. And the key thing here is this is number one. This is the first class. And that is 40 jobs that are created, all right? In a sense, our district, all right? 40 jobs created, expanding programs because of the need, and we are responding appropriately to that need in our community. So I was just very, very excited and proud, as Director Scheidegger, Director Pearson, Chief and Senior staff, everyone was, and especially the families of all the new graduates. It was really great to see. Thank you, Chief, for mentioning all the memorial services. We've had several in the last couple of weeks, and it's always appropriate to honor those people. Thank you for mentioning that, Chief. I serve on the Cordova Planning Advisory Council, and it's very good to know that we were just presented with the second round definitions planning for the Jackson Highway corridor, and I'm very, very pleased to see that our planning staff, our senior staff, is also undertaking these planning efforts to stay abreast of all the potential development and development plans that are occurring within our county, and that is critical. It's just critical for future success of this district. And finally, see everyone at the crab feed Saturday.
Director Clark.
Yeah, I also echo the words of Director Scheidegger regarding the single role paramedic graduates. And I also would like to wish and pray for the continued recovery of Battalion Chief Anthony Castros. He suffered a mild stroke, and and he's home recovering. According to the emails, I appreciate the emails regarding his condition, and we continue to pray that he has a speedy recovery. That's all I have.
Thank you. Director Orzali.
Also, I want to congratulate the staff once again for this work they're doing. It's a monumental task, and I continue to be deeply honored to sit on this board. I'd like to have a comment for saving the date of August 30th for the golf tournament that's going to be coming up for the Sac Metro Public Safety Foundation for the support of Fire Camp, and also for the implementation of further use of the Lucas device. So with that, thank you very much.
Giving lessons in preparation for that golf tournament?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm in. Director Gould?
I'd just like to thank everyone who spent any amount of time or donated anything to fill the boot. If you think about that number, that's pretty phenomenal in this economy and in that one area where that kind of money was taken out of people's purses, so to speak, and given to a very worthwhile cause. So for the citizens of Citrus Heights, which I'm sure was a large percentage since it's right in the heart of their city, I want to thank you publicly for doing that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. President, also 522, I think, has somebody here for the report this evening.
Okay. Just passed him right up, didn't I? Would the 522 representative, Captain Ty Bailey, would you please come forward?
Good evening. A couple of things to report out. We had our ratification meetings last Thursday, Friday, and we had a total of 318 votes. It was a 79% yes vote for ratification. We're going to be meeting with Chief Hinkie and his staff on March 13th to finalize the language, and we'll be bringing it to you after that meeting, probably sometime towards the end of March. I want to thank all the committee members from 522 publicly. It's all volunteer. We had approximately 20 people on our committee and in our team, so I just want to thank them publicly. It was a tremendous amount of work that they put into to get us to where we are today. And when you have 80% of your members who vote yes, obviously I think that's a sign that we're going in the right direction. I also want to thank Chief Hinkie, Finance, and his command staff for all the hard work that went into it. And then lastly, the single role paramedics. A year ago, I came in front of the board and thanked you and talked about how when people were having concessions, laying people off, we were going a different direction and being proactive in hiring. And I think that's to show the hard work that our command staff has done. on getting some revenue enhancement going for our department so we can maintain jobs. And when you hire 40 people, and we're going to be hiring even more than that in the upcoming months to support that, I think that's a positive thing. So I want to say thank you. Thanks.
You bet. Thank you.
Captain. Ty, you said you had 20 people on your negotiating committee?
Yeah, we had close to 20 people
Wow.
from all different ranks. I feel it's important to have, for one, when you have that many people, you have buy-in, but also we had subcommittees. We broke it into subcommittees so we could get more done in less time. So.
Great job, because that's tough with that many people negotiating anything.
Yeah, that's true.
Great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it should be noted, I just went in there by myself.
Yeah.
Not really.
I needed 5 for him alone. So. Is there any other questions for me?
Mr. President, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you.
Really, that is
All right,
tough.
thank you.
Thank you. You show us the S on your chest later, won't you? I just, this evening's presentations is just further proof that the district has high-performing individuals working for it. I want to extend my thanks to you, and I think that it was wonderful that Chief Holbrook reciprocated and thanked all of the staff, told them to hit the snooze button once more in the morning. And today I said goodbye to somebody that had been at the building trades for 19 years. I worked with her for the last 11, and her name is Nancy Conley. She doesn't have to hit the snooze button anymore because she is retired. And it's with my warmest thanks and my sincere wishes for happiness and retirement to Nancy. I sit before you with a touch of sadness and a smile on my face because I know she certainly deserves it for all of the hard work that she's done. So thank you for the opportunity, and if there's nothing else before the group, I would like to say that this meeting is adjourned.
We go to close
session.
We will go to closed session, excuse me.
then adjourn.
Then adjourn.